I'm going to show you how to make pleats, and in particular knife pleats. So I've just taken a standard piece of paper and cut it out of fabric, and then I hemmed the bottom. And now, just for the purposes of a sample, I'm going to use small measurements, but if you were designing pleats for a skirt, you would use your actual measurements. I'll talk more about that later. So what I'm going to do is, on one side I'm going to leave 1.5 centimeters for seam allowance, on one side and the other. And then I'm going to leave a 3 centimeter space for between the pleats. And then I'm going to make a pleat width of 2.5 centimeters. So a space of 3, and then the pleat for 2.5, a space of 3, a pleat of 2.5, space of 3, pleat of 2.5, space of 3, pleat of 2.5, and the remaining space of 3. So I should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces, and 1, 2, 3, 4 pleats. So for this sample, I'm going to have 5 spaces and 4 pleats. So I'm going to take this now to the steamer. The spaces that I marked off on the top, I'm also going to mark off on the bottom, and then I'm going to go and press and steam those pleats flat. So now I'm ready to fold my pleats. I've got the 1.5 centimeter seam allowance on the end, and then the first 3 centimeter space. So I'm going to grab the first pleat and fold it over top and bottom to the 2.5 centimeter mark and press it. And then I'm going to pin the top and bottom, and then do the next pleat. So leave the space, the 3 centimeter space, grab the top and bottom and match the 2.5 centimeter pleat, press it and pin it. We're going to do this 4 times, so we're halfway done. Leave the space, grab the top and bottom of the pleat, press and pin, and last one. Grab the top and bottom, match it up evenly, press it, pin it, and now we're ready to take it to the machine. I'm going to show you 3 ways to finish the knife pleat. One way is just to sew the top. So I put the foot on the edge of the fabric, so I'm about 1 centimeter from the end, and I'm just going to sew the first 2 pleats this way. I'm just going to sew them across the top. And for some people, they're okay with that. The pleat, once you take the pins out, will just hang. The drawback to this type of a pleat is when you wash it, you will lose those creases, and if you want the creases, that's not the way for you. But if you want it just folded over at the top and you don't care about the creases, then that is the way for you. The second way I'm going to show you is to partially sew it down. So you're just going to, at the top, put the foot down, the needle down, start reverse, and you're going to sew down right on the very edge of that pleat. And I'm going to sew about 1/3 of the way. People often do this if they want it more fitted at the top. So I've sewn about 1/3, I've cut the threads, remove the other pin, and then what happens is it stays more fitted at the top and flows more at the bottom. The third way to show you is to sew down the entire pleat. So I'm going to remove the pins, and this way for certain has to be hemmed before you can do this. I put the foot down, the needle down, and I'm going to sew right as close as possible to that edge as possible. Reverse a few stitches, and I'm sewing the entire length of the pleat right on that folded edge. You might want to switch to a clear foot. You definitely want to take your time. You want to be neat and even. It's going to be very visible. first, just a few. And then you still will need to sew the pleat down at the top, because basically now it has a finished edge, which you probably do want to press again, but now you want to sew that pleat at the top to hold it. So if you sew all of them this way, you sew them all and then you sew them all down at the top afterward. So if you have a look, once these threads are all cut, they're all knife pleats, but they're all finished a different way. This one is sewn all the way, so no matter how many times I wash it, it will always keep its shape. I'll still have to press it, but it'll keep the pleated shape. This one is just a partial pleat. It's more fitted at the top, more flowy at the bottom. And this one is just folded at the top and is pretty much flowy all the way. So there you have it, knife pleats. So now to explain how you'll make knife pleats for a skirt that you're going to design, you'll need to take your waist measurement and divide it by 2. 1/2 will be the front, 1/2 will be the back. Then you're going to add 4 centimeters to that, 2 centimeters for a seam allowance on either side. And then you're going to have to decide how many pleats and how wide they will be. So let's say you're going to have 6 pleats, then you'll need to multiply 6 by however wide you want the pleat to be. If it's a narrow pleat, perhaps it'll be 4 centimeters. If it's a wider pleat, perhaps 8 centimeters. So say it's going to be 8 centimeters, you're going to multiply 6 by 8 and also add 48 to half of your skirt measurement plus the 4 centimeters. So that will be how wide the fabric will be, which will be quite a bit wider than this, at least double the width of this. And then you're going to mark your 1.5 centimeter seam allowance at either side, and then you'll need to decide how wide the space will be. So to decide the space, it's always one more space than the number of pleats. So if you have 6 pleats, you need 7 spaces. Take your original half of your waist measurement and divide that by 7. And then whatever number you get, that will be the number of your space, the width of your space. So you'll have your seam allowance, your first space, and then your first pleat. Your second space, second pleat, third space, third pleat, and so on, ending with another 1.5 centimeter seam allowance on the end. And if you do it in this manner, you should have the number and width of pleats that you like and still have your skirt fit.